Well, be fast, have fun. That's a great mission statement. Let's start off with one of the photographs that you took. That was also a winning photo of tennis. This picture, this is unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. This, it's you have.
Hello.
You actually got the ball. You got the shadow, and it's almost like he's floating on the surface of the earth, with the ocean and the sky. And what I also find amazing is that you know he got the ball, but I think that he must have fallen after that. So this was only a short-term victory, or did he actually manage to get back on his feet?
Yeah, so basically this image was taken of Gaël Monfils of France at the Australian Open in 2016. And for those who know tennis or know Monfils, he's quite an athletic player, and he jumps around a fair bit, but he's never jumped like this, especially not on a hard court. Often you see players at the net sometimes, you know, they lunge for a volley, but usually that's on grass or clay. But in this case, he was on the baseline, and he literally Supermaned through the air on hard court, and he actually hurt his wrist too, so there was a timeout after that, and he didn't recover. He basically lost the match. But at the time, I was actually up in the catwalk, and for those of you who know Australia, in the middle of summer, it's really harsh light, and as a photographer, you get pretty excited about light. So in the middle of the day, or it's probably mid-morning there, you kind of know where the shadow's going to be, you know which way the light's going to be, and we could talk about the word luck first. I read something recently that said, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. And I think that's really important to think about, because some people might go, oh, you're lucky to get that shot, or, you know, we'll talk about Kai's shot as well, he's lucky to get that shot. But I think, for me personally, I've done 13 Grand Slams at the Australian Open, and when you actually do the maths, that's 26 weeks of my life photographing tennis on those courts. So you basically spend a lot of time waiting for something like this to happen. So eventually when it happens, you're pretty excited. And first thing I did was swear and look at the back of my camera to see if I'd cropped the racket or stuffed it up, or to check if it was in focus. And luckily it was all there and it was nice and sharp. And I think a lot of things work in this picture, especially, you know, the placement of the ball, the shadow underneath him, you know, the rippling muscles, the dreadlocks and the shadow of his cool hair. And the red shirt pops on the blue court, and I think sort of all of that combined makes for quite a graphic picture. So,
but it's actually a dramatic moment, because it's not the moment of victory that he does get the difficult ball. The moment that you captured is just before he got injured. So it's a different story than you might think on first seeing the photograph, which also makes it very fascinating.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, sport's all about capturing that defining moment, or capturing emotion, you know, jubilation, dejection that goes along with sport. But if you can combine a strong action moment and make it graphic or artistic, which I think a lot of the, you know, photographers I admire, they're really graphic, or they look for art. You know, I look at sport as, you know, entertainers on a stage, and, you know, this is them doing their thing, entertaining the crowd, and, you know, he's launched for that ball probably knowing there's no chance he's going to get it back, but it certainly was a crowd-pleasing moment, and great for photographers as well, so.
Great, wonderful picture. Then there was another legendary moment, and this is how you people work. This is the side that we never get to see. We see the athletes, we don't see how many there are. How many photographers are there on an important, say, semi-final on the Olympics?
Let's say at the night of the 100-meter race, I would estimate it's easy.
Yeah, there was 600.
600, yeah. 600 photographers, and you know, it's all about this glamorous life of being a sports photographer, having the front row seat all the time. You know, sometimes you actually seek for a moment of being all on your own. You know, covering Olympics means like 20 hours a day work, very little sleep, sometimes difficulties to get something to eat, and you never have a silent moment, actually, because this is always somebody rubbing your shoulders. And even for us working at the infield, which is not as crowded as the moat is here, or the finish line, it is never a dull moment, because you always have to be awake, because this is toughest competition in sports photography at the Olympics. there's nobody showing up who has no clue how to shoot sport. They are all on top of the game.
This is more competition than between the athletes. It's between the photographers
Yeah,
trying to
it
get
is.
in front.
And I think, like along with what Kai was saying, you know, it's as competitive as it gets. The Olympics, it's the Olympics for photographers too. You know, we're all there to get our best pictures we've ever taken. And, you know, Kai's a competitor of mine, and I think more importantly, he's a friend as well. But, you know, when we're out there taking our pics, we both want to strive for excellence. And I think we respect each other too, and that's the good thing with the photographers that are given special access to the infield. You know, we have to work together and make sure that we're all like looking out for each other so we can all get the best pictures. So, you know, you build that level of trust too, and we've spent months together working on different world athletics and previous Olympics and stuff.
So it's friendly to you, but you are competitors. I mean, we're all being friendly, but there is some competition between you.
You know, well, Cameron working for Getty, me working for Reuters, this is maybe the toughest competition when it comes to covering Olympic Games you can have. You know, it's about the timings, being the first, being sharp, being quicker, being more creative. But you know, this happy snap actually is taken the day after we both captured the moment, and it was actually more making fun out of the AFP photographer who was in the background, and we of course we posted the pictures on all the social media, and because by this time the whole world was talking about the Usain Bolt picture, which we both captured. And we just basically posted the pictures. That is only one photographer in the picture who missed the picture actually last night. But you know, this is like, among all these things we've seen yesterday and this morning, like really serious subjects, I think it is also important that you capture these lively, funny moments full of laughter and not take yourself as a photographer too serious in certain circumstances. Of course, it is hard and serious work, but I think we all should not forget to laugh. Huh?
Yeah, that's true. But in sports, you have what we would call a photo finish. That's when two runners arrive practically at the same time, with a tiny difference. That's what you had too. You basically had a photo finish. Maybe you should have both won a world press photo.
I mean, if we set the scene with this picture, for example, we're going to get to the Bolt picture in a sec, but basically, we could have gone anywhere on that grass on the infield, and you know, it was the semi-final of the 100 metres men's, and we both decided to sort of go around the 70-metre mark, and that was because we knew by that point in that semi-final, Usain Bolt would be so far ahead that he'd probably slow down, turn the gas off, because he needed to recover for the final that was later that night. And so...
you expected this to happen?
Yeah, we basically, and this is when I talk about, you know, preparation. We've shot Bolt enough, we know how to shoot him and do a pan of him. He's got a really good technique when he runs, his head's really still, and... yeah,
but it never happens. You never ever see a runner look back. I can imagine that they want to look back, see where the others are, but it would cost you too much time. It would be too dangerous to do so. So, actually, for me, this was the first time I ever saw a runner that had the confidence to do so.
It was the same for us. A sprinter is never turning his head 45 degrees. They won't do that in this 9-point-something seconds. They're going to run this 100-meter dash. And the moment he did it, and we both basically were talking about what we're going to do in the semi-final, because it was not of the decisive moment. And unluckily, there was a false start as well. We both had a colleague at the start, but nobody had an idea whether it was maybe Bolt false starting. So we were rushing to the start as well. And then we tried to figure out our spot again, both like, you know, you lose your breath. And I just said, I basically changed my exposure setting from a 40th of a sec to a 50th of a sec, and then it happened. And we both actually thought in the first moment, okay, that's it, because actually the pen usually works only into one dimension and not in two. As soon as he's turning his head, actually the picture should have been completely muzzy and shaky. But he was looking for such a long while in terms of long at a sprint race, you know, and we both basically captured it like on a less than 1,000th of a second, you know. Just I think you were a little bit earlier. It doesn't matter, but this was then luck when it happened, as it was preparation and thinking about doing something different. But actually, it was impossible to capture it technically and then it happened twice, which is also kind of strange and funny.
Yeah, and I think if you know Usain Bolt, well said. You know, if you know Bolt, people talk about goats and not the animal goats, but the greatest of all time. And Usain Bolt is arguably the best sprinter / athlete of all time. So for us to be there, you know, it's a privilege to photograph him, and we've both seen him in every Olympics compete and win gold. And the incredible thing is he hasn't lost a race for 11 years. He's been disqualified once ever, and that was the only time he didn't win a race. And he's like a legend of the sport, and we're there. And I think the fact the world's so interested in someone like this, and the fact he's so cheeky and so confident on the track, his sort of personality shines in this picture for both of us. And I think that's why it resonated with so many people, both in social media and also, you know, traditional media.
He is the very best ever, and the only problem is he knows it. You can tell by the way he smiles that this is so confident.
You know, a lot of people were asking if we thought that he was laughing about the others, but I don't think so. I think it was just more like, because he had, as usual, a very slow start, and he had to catch up, and by halfway, actually, they were running them out. And then he just turned his head and said, "Hey guys, come on, you have to try harder, you know, just catch me if you can." And they couldn't, and they knew, you see, like, of course, those faces are blurry, but they are really serious running, and he's slowing down, and still there's no way, you know. And I think that makes it really, really funny, yeah.
I think what's interesting is that this became the Usain Bolt picture. Well, it was not the most important moment of the Olympics, because these were only the semi-finals, so he still had an important match to go. But even after that, this was the picture we saw.
Yeah, it's the one that sort of resonated from the Olympics. You know, the blue ribbon event of the entire Olympics is the men's 100 metres final, or, you know, the 100 metres swimming in the pool, and Phelps is probably the only GOAT that's at the Olympics. You know, that guy's incredible as well. And I think, yeah, the fact it was Bolt made the picture, you know, so popular when it sort of went out there. And the other thing is people forget, you know, the last Olympics in London, or you go back a couple of Olympics to Beijing, you know, social media was just sort of evolving, and Twitter was new. There was no Instagram back then. And I think now you have the power of social as well, and the fact that so many people get access to see pictures and retweet them and share them and repost them. And now, you know, we both have memes of this picture, which is pretty funny. There's a lot of memes out there. So we're just going to show you a couple of behind-the-scenes pictures of what it's like, and we'll talk through just sort of how it all happens. Basically, you can sort of see on the left there, you've got my cameras, and then on the right, you've got AP and Reuters are to the right as well. And with these kind of races, you know, clients expect pictures instantly now. And I think what people don't realise is our cameras have got fibre optic cable, Ethernet plugged into the cameras, going straight up to editors in the Tribune. And for the Bolt final, for example, I know that Getty Images got pictures on news desks globally in 59 seconds. So from the time he crossed that line, it was on news desks everywhere, and I think Reuters would have been very similar. And yeah, it's incredible how quickly people want content now.
Yeah, it's a big difference on what we've done before in sports photography. You know, you had a slide edit within the camera or on the laptops, but now you're working basically real time, and on top of it, you try to do something different. And Usain actually asked me if I need a third eye to catch him now, because I was carrying a 360 camera as well, just to get a different moment. And actually, it worked, because we are allowed to follow him on the lap of honor, and it creates a really unique angle. You won't get as close as we get and this TV camera, but this is very special as well, because you have to realize you're photographing somebody who just won his whatever 7th or 8th, there was a 7th gold medal, and the third 100-meter final at the Olympics, which is, it must be massive for the guy as well. It's just like, it's incredible. And at one moment you're running, and of course you're kind of exhausted as well. But you realize that you're really witnessing sports history in the top front row seat. And this is actually a privilege I really enjoy as a news photographer for an agency, pretty much.
Yeah, just on that too, you know, when Bolt crossed the line in the actual final, Kai and I were the first two guys to basically greet him after he's just done his thing in front of probably, I'd say, hundreds of millions of people watching on television and stuff. And the first two guys to say, "G'day, how you going?" were Kai and I, and we literally got to do the lap of honour with him. And, you know, they only let 2 broadcast cameras and 4 photographers do that lap. So it's an honour to be part of that. And we want to get the best shots we can, but we try and stay out of each other's way as well, so we can all get the best pics. But yeah, here's Kai with like all his gear and me with my gear. Like there's a lot of stuff to carry around, and it's physically exhausting. You know, you're running on probably 3 or 4 hours a night sleep throughout the Olympics, and you work for about 24 days straight, would you say, at least?
Yeah, that's especially when it comes to the track and field events, it's very exhausting. It starts like very early, then you have to commute to the stadium, and then you might have an afternoon break. And the funny thing is, this is not like that we were doing one of these happy snaps just having cameras around. This is really what you need when you work in the infield. You know, Tom was talking about his a superb remote picture from the horse race yesterday and how you have to set up the things. The problem, or actually difficulties at the track and field event when you work from the inside, is basically you operate several remote cameras on certain venues. You have hammer throwing, you have steeplechase, you have finish line. Do you carry 5, 6 cameras? You have to put them like an hour or even 2 hours in advance, depending on the event which is going on. And then you always have to remind, because you might shoot whatever preliminary race, and at the moment is the guy who's going to win the hammer throwing, so you have to release with your remote control this camera in the ring, even if you don't attend the event, which makes it like sports photography at the Olympics a very complex thing.
Yeah, it's stressful and full on, but I always say, you know, the Olympics happen every 4 years and you've got 4 years to recover, so go hard and hopefully...
Was there not any competition when it came along that you had both taken a picture that might be the world press photo, and eventually only one got to win? Wasn't there any competition between you at that moment, or any, you know, being so close to each other and still only one prize?
I mean, fortunately, there's a few awards out there, and I think together we've sort of won a few with these pictures. So, you know, I'm stoked for Kai to win it on this occasion with World Press. And the fact he's a friend and he was there next to me, you know, we shared this experience, and, you know, it's like reward for, you know, 2-3 hard weeks, or, you know, 2 world championships and 3 Olympics that we've all sort of busted our asses together to get amazing pictures. So I think, you know, it's brilliant that Kai got the honour on this occasion.
And you got your prize as well, so...
This is actually brilliant. When it came out, the day I've been on holiday with my wife and our daughter skiing in Austrian mountains, and I just got information, and I could not access the website, and I said, maybe it's not true, and I was just kind of very, you know, you don't celebrate before you kind of get the email. And I said, it's actually quite funny, because they told me that Cameron took the award with the tennis pictures. That's quite an elegant way to avoid any discussions. But to be honest, I didn't expect to win with a picture, because I think sometimes it's very difficult if you took a picture and for like whatever half a year, almost everybody who's somehow interested in sports or sports photography knows a picture, and sometimes it's very difficult to win an award with a picture everybody already knows. So I'm feeling very honored and happy, but he has won as much as I did, and we never, because the pictures were miscredited in tweets and stuff like this, but we all the time took it with a smile and were clapping each other's shoulders, and there was never any kind of rivalry, as maybe it could be in between the companies, but not between...
That's great. Would you have many more great pictures from the Olympics from other competitions as well. Would you mind showing?
Yeah, we're just going to scroll through a couple now. So, Kai, if you want to talk about any of these, go for it. But these are I think these are Kai's 5 or 6 favourite images from Rio Olympics.
Yeah, I picked them for different reasons. Of course, this one is just making it even in the house. You know, my wife is responsible for decorating the walls, and she decided, okay, this picture is good enough to go into the house. And this is one we also took very similar. You will see it from Cameron as well. And it was after the relay. That was the 9th Olympic gold medal Usain Bolt won, and they were praying together. And it's kind of sneaky. It's a personal moment for them, and you just crawl on the track, and you hold your camera, and, you know, try to be not too offending. But actually the guys are quite cool, and they let us go with it.
Yeah, I mean, they trust us, they're used to us being around them, we keep our space, and yeah, we sort of work together.
This is actually, I like to share this picture of Rafaela Silva, the Brazilian judoka, because for me, in news photography, across sports or all the other topics we cover at the news agency, I think the most important thing is that we either capture emotions, transport those emotions, or just create emotions by those people looking at our images. And she is from the city of God Favea, and she won the first gold medal for Brazil at the Rio Olympics. And she got completely overwhelmed by her own emotions and by the crowd, and actually police officers had to free her because like hundreds of people were literally on top of her because the whole country was so proud. And I got one frame because it was a bit late, I have to admit, and I had to jump over a couple of colleagues, and I was holding the camera. But you know, it's not all like this prestigious photography. Sometimes it's just, okay, you push somebody on the left and on the right, and you make your way. And this is why I still make sure my figure stays as it is. Otherwise, I would be, as a lightweight, you fly out. Yeah, it doesn't happen that often that you have like gold, silver, and bronze from one country. I think that was a 100-meter hurdles race, and the American girls won it, and they were so cheerful and full of fun. So, well, this is something as a sports photographer working at the infield at the Olympics. That's kind of the celebration picture you dream of, and it just happened. It's one funny story behind her. Simone Biles is undoubtable one of the greatest gymnasts ever on earth, and I was not scheduled doing gymnastics, and we had 3 colleagues covering it through the whole event, and they asked, you have an afternoon off. It was before the track and field stuff started. You're going to join us because we could need an additional body somewhere, and you try to capture that. And they actually had a bet on me that I'm going to miss a moment because they tried it for the whole week, and they said, listen, we want when she's turning into the wall and doing this. And I was looking there, it was about 100 photographers sitting in the tribune. I've been earlier, and I tried to see it and get this line straight. And then I realized the difficulties. I haven't seen the sport before, I had to admit, that you kind of tempted to shoot too quickly because she's doing whatever, 2 or 3 somersaults before she's hitting the board, and then she's hitting actually the vault. And I said, okay, just try to be patient, and of course you want to push the trigger. And I finally managed, and it was on the boys to pay for the dinner, and I was hungry that day, you can imagine. One picture just to show the opposite of shooting slow shutter. Sometimes you really want to freeze action. And water polo, whenever I have time in between the assignments I'm scheduled to, I try to shoot water polo at the Olympics because I think it's just such a rough and violent and unfair, but still fair sport, and it's amazing. And I think you have to be physically so fit. You know, I might won't drawn because I'm too big, but those guys are really just stay on top of this water surface because they are so full of muscles and power and energy. And I think this picture of the Serbian goalkeeper shows that quite well.
All right, thanks, Kai. I'm just going to quickly chat about a couple of these. Again, we mentioned before just being, you know, I wouldn't call myself a master of light, but I strive to be a master of light, and I think that's a photographer's dream, to be able to see things differently and be able to use light in ways that, you know, other people might not see, you know. And so this is just the start of the steeplechase, and I decided to go up high, back on, middle of the day. It was pretty harsh, and just sort of makes a nice shape. I quite like the sort of arty, graphic-looking pictures. Again, who would have thought to go up the back of the stadium behind the starting blocks to get hurdles of guys going the other way? And I kind of had this idea that, and this is, you know, from experience, because it's so tight in those finals, you know, the hurdlers are pretty close together, and usually someone might trip up, and I'm like, all right, it's going to be the third hurdle, the fourth hurdle, the fifth hurdle, and I'm going, come on, what's going to happen? And nothing happened, and then the final hurdle, you know, the guy from the United States had a big spill over the line, and it's sort of an interesting shape with all the other guys crossing the line as well. Again, this is the huddle. You know, it's nice to sort of be a fly on the wall in this situation where you might have a camera there, but you're not interacting with the athletes. You're literally there, take a quick pic, move out, and you're just sort of floating around without them noticing you. But it's pretty special when you're that close to superstars like that. Mo Farah, you know, he's almost up there with Usain Bolt as one of the legends of track and field, and, you know, he's such an incredible runner. He's pretty close to being undefeated too, and this is him, you know, showing raw emotion. And I think for us, you know, capturing that emotion is like one of the favourite things we do as sports photographers, because as a viewer, you know, you can react to the feeling of the picture in particular. And then back to Usain. So that kind of wraps us up.
Well, thank you so much, and both congratulations with winning the award this year.